From Aldie, Virginia, Loudoun debates. Today's debate, the Dulles District. Your candidates are Puja Khanna and Matt Letourneau. Brought to you by the Coalition of Loudoun Towns, the Loudoun Times-Mirror, and Loudoun Now. Live streaming provided by Jeff in High Def.
Welcome. This is the 2023, I can't believe it's 2023, Dulles District Board of Supervisors, hosted by the Coalition of Loudoun Towns, the Loudoun Times-Mirror, and Loudoun Now. We are live streaming as well on Facebook. So if for those in virtual land, welcome as well. And it will be available on the Coalition of Loudoun Town Facebook page forever after. Take a look. We have a very important election coming up that's going to chart Loudoun County's future from 2023 and beyond. A lot of big items of concern and need for the county. And we have two great candidates who are running to be your next representative. We have Puja Khanna running as the Democratic candidate for the Board of Supervisors, and we have Matt Letourneau, who is running for the Republican candidate for the Board of Supervisors. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to both of you. Number one, debate, but also for being willing to put your name forward and to serve. It is not an easy thing. It takes a lot, and if without having good people running, we don't have good government. So thank you both very much for running. Tonight, the debate format will be as follows. Each candidate a 2.5-minute opening statement, at which point we'll then move to questions. We have an hour and a half for the opening statements and the questions. And then each candidate will get a closing statement as well for 2.5 minutes. The way the questions will work is as follows. The question will be asked of one candidate, and they will get 90 seconds to provide their answer. And then the other candidate will get 1 minute to rebut or provide, their answer as well. And then it will switch. The person who went second will then go first, get 90 seconds, and we'll go back and until we reach time. We've got a list of questions here which are relative and relevant to the Dulles District specifically, and some that are relevant to the county at large, because while they are your representative for the Dulles District, they also have a responsibility to represent the county as a whole. So our districts, but we are also a county of one. We will decide who goes first by coin toss. But before we start, I want to introduce the three folks representing Colt, Loudoun Times, and Loudoun Now, who will be asking the questions. From Loudoun Now is Editor-in-Chief, Karen Graham from the Loudoun Times-Mirror, and representing Colt is Chris Hornbaker, who is the mayor of the town of Lovettsville, as they like to say, the top town of Virginia, simply because it's the highest one. So, and also with us in the audience from Leesburg, Kelly, thank you for coming. And with that, we will get right into it. We will do a coin toss to see who would like to either provide their opening statement first or pass. So I will in there. And Puja, if you'd like to call it. Heads. What was it? Heads? Okay. It's tails. So, Mr. Letourneau, you can either go first or pass.
So if I pass, do I get to close last?
It will alternate all the way back and forth. So, correct. If
Okay.
you
So
go first,
I will defer.
You'll defer. All right. So, and Puja, your opening statement.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with all of us tonight. I would like to take the opportunity to thank the debate tonight. Thank you, Coles, Loudoun Times-Mirror, and Loudoun Now for bringing this opportunity to us so that I could present my vision and we could have this debate. My name is Puja Khanna. I'm running for the Dulles District Supervisor seat. I've worked on this race for about a year now. I've lived in Loudoun County for My family and I, we moved to Loudoun County for the rustic feel of it, which seems to have gotten lost in the process. I'm a mom of 3. My kids go to Loudoun County Public Schools. My kids could not join us for the debate today because my son had surgery earlier this week, so they're all home. And is sitting here in the audience. He's in the blue shirt, right in the second row. He's my strongest supporter. He's always cheerleaded me to, believe that we can always do whatever we want to. So I would not be here without his support. And I have a lot of friends in this audience today. So thank you, everyone, for showing up to support me and making me feel that I'm supported. My husband and I moved to Loudoun County, and we lived here since. We've worked hard to build our life. There's a lot of things that have happened in this district. Our district was overdeveloped, overconstructed, and I would like to see some things done differently. But we want to also make sure that in totality, the vision for district is being taken care of. I would like to set up Dulles in terms of, visibility and a vision where Dulles is more sustainable, more livable, and more safer for all of us. In terms of our road, pedestrian safety is my top priority. I want to fix Route 50, I want to fix Braddock. Livable in terms of, always keeping our community first, giving our community that voice at the table is very, very important to me. In terms of sustainability and environment, I believe in environment sustainability, and I would push for policies and positions that will help our community, county, align with making sure that we are taking care of our environment, and also making sure that we are putting policies in place that will on a larger level to reduce the carbon footprint in our county. I'm a small business owner.
It is
I'm
time.
also
It's time.
okay. All right.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Mayor Littleton. Thank you to all the mayors of Cole now and Loudoun Times Mayor. My name is Matt Letourneau. I've had the pleasure of representing you for the last 12 years on the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to thank my family, my wife Margaret, my dad's here, a couple of my kids are here, a couple others are at activities tonight. It's been a really tremendous journey. It is not about the past, it's about the future. But I do think it's worth taking a look back 12 years to when I was first elected at the on the Board of Supervisors. I ran because, like everybody else in this area, I was sitting at home wondering, why wasn't there a plan? Why wasn't there real economic development happening in Loudoun County? What was the plan from the Board of Supervisors? And I actually started out by going on the internet and trying to find it, and I couldn't. And I was taught that when something isn't going the way you think it should, you should do something about it. And so I ran for office. For years, we've delivered $1.5 billion in infrastructure directly serving the residents of the Dulles District. We widened Route 606, which is a key reliever for Route 50. We've done several major safety improvements along Route 50, including the Elk Lick Pass, which was we put in traffic control devices on Center Street. We put in numerous signals, such as at Tall Cedars and Stone Springs. Project after project in order to improve our community. But the reality is we have a budget constraint in Loudoun County. We can't simply do everything all at once. When I was elected, we had overcrowded schools. And as a parent of 4 Loudoun County public school children, I wondered, again, what was the plan? And so I sat down with my school board counterpart, Jeff Morse, and we systematically built school after school to relieve that overcrowding. And that did take up a lot of our budget. But moving forward, you can trust that he knows how to get things done because I have gotten them done. And I do have quite a few ideas. I do have a vision for the future that includes improving Route 50, moving forward with the Loudoun County Parkway interchange, fixing the Braddock Road S-curve, and completing a lot of the projects that I've actually started.
And real quickly, just for both of you to be aware, when you reach time, my plan is to tap on the pedestal, or the lectern. Okay, first question from Chris.
Alrighty, this first question is we'll start with Mr. Letourneau. and planning and zoning. As was said in the past, the county spends a vast majority of its time on zoning and land planning. For nearly 3 years, the county has been working on the zoning ordinance rewrite, known as the ZOR, which came out of the new comprehensive plan. The next board is expected to be the ones who adopt it. In your view, what 3 things does the ZOR have right? What 3 things does it have wrong, and why? And what priorities do you see the ZOR address in the next board?
Well, first of all, the chair has set out an aggressive schedule on the zoning ordinance rewrite, and in fact, intends for this board. So we have our work cut out for us. It's going to be hard to answer your question because we had a work session last night, and we only have gotten through chapter 3, and I'm taking these one chapter at a time. But last night, for instance, I pushed through a change to the zoning ordinance amendment that would allow for indoor recreation centers in certain zoning districts allowed, and in the draft was not allowed. That's something that I think our community really wants. We have an opportunity to do a public-private partnership on. The biggest thing that we hear is the issue of modifiability, whether or not different changes can be made to specific planning and zoning districts. That's really an all-encompassing topic. And pretty much everything I try to do. So I brought together a group of stakeholders and staff to work through that issue. We've already had one working group. The business community is very upset at what they think is in the zoning ordinance. Staff is adamant it's the right approach, and so I'm trying to find middle ground. And I think there is middle ground. We actually had a great breakthrough in the last work. So I'm continuing to work with that. One of the things that I do not support is modifiability of our airport impact overlay district, for instance, because it's critical that we don't have residences near lots of overflights, and we've got to get data centers right. And I do think there were some things in the zoning ordinance I didn't agree with. So we've actually increased the amount of required setbacks, and we're making it harder to put data centers next to residential development.
Ms. Khanna, you have a minute to respond.
So the zoning ordinance is, yes, it's been much talked about, and we would like to see progress. We would like to see progress done in terms of, finishing the product. So I know there are different concerns with different people, different approaches, and different thoughts have been put forward. But I think the zoning ordinance is going to determine a lot of what and how we are going to implement the zoning in county. So it's a really important piece of document. What I'm hearing a lot is the language in the document is a little too prescriptive, and people are, wanting to have that changed. But there are other advantages of implementing that sooner because, some of what is there is, has been looked at. It's obviously a document. So I would basically want us to, review whatever we need to. It's been worked at for a long time, and let's try and, get it to a completion from where we can, take the next step forward. Because data centers are, placements of those are going to be a huge point of concern for. Thank you.
Okay, so the second question is about public facilities. In the county's 2021 through 2030 capital needs assessment, it was determined that Loudoun has a significant deficit of such as parks, schools, resident facilities, activity day centers, etc. Of all the county districts, Dulles was the furthest behind. The estimate was that to meet these needs, the county would need to acquire at least 2,000 acres in eastern Loudoun alone, 500 for, with a total potential land acquisition cost of $1 to $3 billion. How do you propose to make up these shortfalls in eastern Loudoun and Dulles, given the desire for more data centers, residential and flex space, and the rising land costs?
So yeah, there is a dire need for amenities in this district. It truly is. We do want green open spaces. I would personally want us to have a park which is dedicated to Dulles South. And yes, all these features and amenities cost us money. And we want to, make sure that it's taken care of by finding places that county can probably buy. And we can probably bring a park through that. TPA is also a good place where we can look for places to get as for us. Money is a concern, and we would be looking at places in the budget where we can, get that money from. So yeah.
So as dire as those numbers were, they were a lot elected. First thing we did was set forward to build the Dulles South Recreation and Community Center, which gave a place for our children to play, to swim, for adults to go to the gym, and for seniors to have. We didn't have that facility here. Then we put lights on at Burns Ridge Park. Then we added restrooms to all of our facilities through systematically and upgraded all the Loudoun County Public Schools facilities, because that's a key way that we can actually make up that deficit. But looking forward, it's really about being smart with our approach. For instance, there's opportunities sometimes with development. I'm currently negotiating a deal to add a cricket pitch at a Boulevard, for instance. When Loudoun County Public Schools sought to buy Light Ridge High School, I insisted that we buy extra land so that we have room for a community park on Braddock Road. And just next month, we're going to have our first community input session on that new park serving Dulles South directly, which has been in our capital plan. So there's a lot of ways to get.
So real quickly, I'm going to call an audible, because the question was, how are you guys planning to account for the $1 to $3 billion worth of land needed to buy to build these facilities in the first place?
I think we'll have to look at where our budget is and how we can make it happen. We can get some funding for it, and we can look to have partner organizations that would be helping us with this. There are landowners that can donate land to us. That could be an option that we can consider.
Yeah, so the truth is we can't. That's the bottom line. We won't have enough money in our budget to do it. But we can be smart with our proffers, with what we're getting from private development, and we can ensure us is buying a facility, the county is getting space as well, and then we can land bank whenever possible when there's land that's on the market to purchase.
Thank you.
Okay, this question is about collective bargaining. The current board voted to allow county employees to negotiate collective bargaining agreements if they chose. How should the board handle collective bargaining in the upcoming term? And then, given the conversation of the past couple weeks, should PLAs be required for county projects?
No. A project labor agreement is when you require union labor on county projects. And the problem with that is 95% of Virginia companies are non-union. So we don't have that labor in Virginia, and we reduce competition, which is almost certainly going to drive costs. We just heard how daunting our capital needs. The last thing that we want to do is increase our capital budget by increasing costs on our capital program. As far as collective bargaining is concerned, it's no secret that I opposed collective bargaining. I want to say first and foremost, I have nothing but incredible respect for our county employees. In fact, I'm proud to be endorsed by Loudoun's career firefighters, despite the fact that we on that issue. And that's because I fought for increased pay and benefits, including a new classification and compensation study that reset where Loudoun employees were being paid and helped keep them in their jobs so that they're being paid a fair wage. That said, collective bargaining is already costing taxpayers over $3 million in administrative costs simply by what we have to hire to manage it. We have just begun negotiations with the first union, and it's a 22-week process. I'd like to put the money that we're spending towards administering collective bargaining and actually give it to our employees to increase their pay instead of doing this. There's other alternatives, confer, which gives employee groups an important voice to be at the table. I would have favored that approach, but it was very clear that the majority was hell-bent on moving forward with this, and I think that's going to be a negative consequences for us going forward.
I disagree. I disagree because, unions are getting better. Working class families get better support when unionization happens. Our projects run on time when union is brought into action. Our projects complete on time. Look at so many projects in this district that were to get completed, with roads and all, and have not gotten completed. So unions play a vital role. Unions have given us a 5-day week. Unions have given us the weekend. So, for us to say that it's an expense, it's not fair because, we want to treat our employees fairly. We want to give people the money that they deserve, and security to their jobs, and thereby it has a positive ripple effect in their families too. So I think taking care of essential county workers, teachers, and firefighters, and everybody else is equally important for us. We have so many other expenses in the county, we can take care of this as well. My question?
Yes, the next question is for you. The topic is utility scale solar arrays. Some landowners in western Loudoun have been contacted by solar energy companies interested in building utility scale installations on their property. The county's current zoning permit utility scale solar arrays on rural zoned land. Should the zoning ordinance continue to prohibit solar arrays, or should the board reconsider this provision? Are the environmental impacts worth it?
So where be preserved, prime soils need to be preserved, and I understand that very well. I'm big on environment, like I said in my opening statement as well, and I would like to partner with Colt and listen to all of you as to what your pressing concerns there are. My door will always be open. I will always be open for communication, to solve. But if particularly we talk about solar arrays on land in Western Loudoun specifically, maybe not the prime soil, that's really not the place for it, but I think we can look at case-by-case basis to see what we want to do, because some of the flexibility is going to be required from every space. I would definitely like to have more conversations on this and have more studies and support the issue in the community as to the best of my ability as I can.
Thank you. Well, there's no question that climate change is a significant issue for all of us in local government to deal with. Is part of that, but also thinking about where our energy sources come from. I was very proud to be part of the board that ended up approving a massive solar array at Dulles International Airport, which is going to be one of the largest that Dominion has done. As far as Western is concerned, it's a tricky subject because we want to preserve the historic character of Western Loudoun while acknowledging that there's opportunity there to do some things. So if that moves forward at all, it would absolutely have to be by special exception. It certainly should not be by right. But truthfully, it's difficult for a Dulles supervisor to make that kind of decision in a background. This is not a question that's really come before the board. On our board of trying to defer to our colleagues in different districts, and I have a great relationship with my colleagues from the Western Loudoun districts, and I want to hear from them. I would want to hear from Colt and all the different stakeholders about what the pitfalls would be with moving forward to that, but certainly not by right, potentially by special exception, depending on what that really looks like.
Okay, so the next question is regarding data centers. Loudoun is the world's data center capital. Property taxes paid by data centers pay for a significant portion of county services. But some county residents have expressed concern that these have a negative impact on the environment, especially because of their high demand for electricity and the corresponding transmission infrastructure, that they are not aesthetically pleasing, and that they are driving land values in eastern Loudoun too high. Loudoun County Economic Development has stated doubling of data centers from 30 million square feet to 50 million square feet would be appropriate for Loudoun. Do you agree with this assessment? Why or why not? How would you address the community concerns?
I don't necessarily recall DED saying that that was appropriate. I think it was dependent on what land use decisions the board would make. And no, it would not be appropriate because you'd be getting into land that simply isn't appropriate for data center development. So the way I see this, data centers are a critical part of our economy, and they do produce jobs, each one individually not a ton of jobs, and it's good to be a tech-forward community like we are. At the same time, unfortunately, there are data centers that have been built in the wrong place. There are data centers that are too close to residential development. I was very disappointed with the board several times this term when I was on the losing end of 5-4 votes centers near residential development. In addition, we have several that came in by right that are right up against residential communities. And that is a detriment for those individuals who live there. The construction process is very arduous and difficult, and it's an eyesore. So finding the right places to put really going to be key moving forward, and that's the work that we're doing both in the current zoning ordinance and with the special zoning ordinance amendment that we're planning on data center development, because we really need to define what those opportunities are moving forward. Last night, for instance, we put new standards in place for substations, because substations come with they need to be better screened, there need to be more setbacks. All those kinds of things have to happen. But you can trust that I'm going to make the right decisions on that, because I've already been fighting against data centers next to residential development.
Data centers. It's a hot topic in our county. 130 data centers, 100 by right are going to come up. We have a lot of land that's consumed by the data centers at this point. 1% of our total land in the county goes towards data centers with the current specs that there are. Data centers bring us a lot of revenue. They generate a lot of revenue, so we have a lot of economic, but they also have environmental issues that we are all very concerned about, right? I would want data center industry to be environmentally compliant with all of us. I would like them to have solar roofs, use recyclable water, just be better community partners. So, this is what I would want. And my opponent, our current supervisor here, he has actually approved data centers right, left, and center for the 12 years that he's been on this board. He's actually approved data centers close to residential spaces, which he thinks is not okay. And I agree. They should not belong close to anybody's homes, because, our homes are our biggest assets. Yeah.
Diving in a little deeper to the data center issue, the Dulles Cloud South is a proposal supported by Loudoun County Economic Development to convert nearly 500 acres of transition policy area currently off limits to data centers to allow for millions of additional square feet of data centers. A majority of this project is in the Dulles District, near Prince William County, near Braddock Road, and out to Route 15. Do you support this project? Why or why not?
That's my question? Okay. So the Dulles Cloud South is an initiative that was presented. It's a proposal that was brought forward by the economic development of our department of the county. And it's a space in the TPA talked about. It's going to be a lot more square footage of data centers over there. The only unique thing about that space is that it already has, so data centers need substations like, our supervisor was mentioning earlier. It has overhead power lines over there. It also has 2 substations. Part of that, I want to protect the TPA absolutely and 100%, but some of that space, if we did a carve out, we could potentially accommodate that space. We have a lot of issues with, data centers coming up everywhere, and especially when they are by right, they will be all over the county. If it's in that space, it would be more designated. We know where that is, so that's my thought there. Oh, by the way, yeah, it will generate a lot of revenue for us, so we can do a lot more in the county with that.
Area you're talking about is down down Gum Spring Road on the west side, and it's one of the only areas in our community that isn't really developed, and I'd like to keep it that way. So the answer to your question is no, I do not support Dulles Cloud South. I understand the arguments for it. I understand that there's a station there and there's transmission lines, but what I'm hearing from residents is that they do like having some green space in the eastern part of the county. We have a little bit sometimes of an east-west divide on these issues, and it's actually my dear colleagues from other parts of Loudoun who have been proponents of this project, because no problem supporting big development when it happens in their part, not in their part of the county, but in our part of the county. And I think residents in Dulles have had a little bit of enough of that. I think we want to preserve some open space in this part of the county and not have it go data center. I understand the economic benefit, but at some point, line, and that is my line.
The next topic is Metro. Regardless of whether you agree with the decision a decade ago to bring the Silver Line to Loudoun County, Metro is here. The county's Metro stations opened as ridership system down significantly, and Metro faces a fiscal cliff next year. Yes or no? Was bringing Metro to Loudoun a mistake? What, if anything, should the county do to contribute to Metro's operating budget? And is investing in Metro's future a good investment for Loudoun County?
Well, one of the first votes I had to take on the board was for Metro, and I proudly voted yes, and I would vote yes again today. So no, it was not a mistake. I am really proud today to be one of 2 Virginians that represent our great Commonwealth on the Metro Board of Directors, where my colleagues asked me to chair the Finance Committee. So you can guess I have a lot of. There's no way we're going to cover Metro's fiscal cliff in a minute and a half. I gave a presentation today to the Committee for Dulles on this topic. It was not a mistake. 35,000 people a week are already using the new stations on the Silver Line. Construction for those stations has paid for itself through tax districts that the board set up. So think about that. We built the entire project, which includes the rail yards, without a single existing resident at the time of the vote paying for it. That's pretty remarkable if you think about that. So that piece of infrastructure is very important, and it's critical to our future. We just spent a lot of time talking about data centers. Loudoun County, I admire our data center industry, but we're more than data centers. If we want to attract Class A office space, if you look at where it's grown around the region, it's been around metro stations. It's been around transit. Transit-oriented development is what companies are looking for. And so the Board of Supervisors recently approved Rivanna Innovation Station, major new mixed-use development with green space and with Class A office, hotel space, all those sorts of things to help diversify our economy, bring businesses here, and that'll help residents have more job opportunities closer to home.
Ms. Khanna, you have 1 minute to respond.
Thrilled Metro is here. I'm just upset that it took 12 years to bring Metro here. Our current supervisor sits on the Metro board, so I'm sure he knows why the delay happened and why we have such a huge deficit in the Metro right now. So, with that, I think I'm all about transit options which are environmentally for our county. We need to invest in transit in this county. We need to have more public transportation so we can use that and get rid of the congestion on our roads. It's environmentally positive for us. In fact, we need more of it. I would want to have a Dulles connector here in Dulles because that's our connection to Metro. Which way we can improve transit in this district and overall in the county, that's a plus for us. So Metro, I think, has a lot of potential. Now that it is here, this is our opportunity to make sure that we expand on this benefit that we have and make this county more, in terms of travel around and just make it easy for all of us to, move from one place to another. So public-oriented transit, yes, let's go for it.
Okay, the next question is about affordable housing. Loudoun County is experiencing a crisis, a view confirmed by the county's own affordable housing report from last year. The county's affordable dwelling unit program is not projected to address this problem in total. Many county employees and even our private sector workforce cannot afford to live in the county they work in. Of your campaign sites, addressing this crisis is not mentioned. Is addressing this issue a priority for you? If so, what concrete ideas or actions will you champion outside of what the county is currently doing to meet this need?
So affordable housing is a crisis in our county. I agree with that. We are the county is looking at options to, make advancement in this space. The program that the county put together for ADU, obviously the number of homes that were to be in that attainable zone has not been progress that has been made. So I'm happy that this initiative was started because there are people in this county, essential county workers, who cannot afford to live in our county. We don't have the workforce that lives here, and it's not okay. Because when people live outside of our county and then they come in to work here and commute here, that's quality of life, because they're spending a lot of time on the roads. So we need to make that better for all of us and all of them as well. So, ADU program needs to be moved swiftly towards. We need to make sure that new rezoning applications that are coming into the county, we ask the developers for 15 to 20% of ADU in there. We should move to, have more housing, denser housing by metro. We should have more, we should look at blighted parcels in the county, look where we can, get more infill locations where we can, have more affordable housing units go into place and actually make progress into it. I'm sure, we can solve this problem as we go along. It's a problem that has been identified in the county, and we are looking into it. The county is looking into it. And I hope I have the opportunity to serve on the board next year to make things better.
Thank you. I have a little bit of an honest conversation about it, because the number one determinant of affordability right now in the housing market is rising mortgage interest rates. It's why folks are now even more out of reach for affordable housing. There's a limit to what the county can realistically do. The other issue we have is infrastructure. My opponent actually used to criticize overdevelopment in the Dulles district. Well, there's concerns about adding housing in absolutely every place because of our infrastructure. So we have to get caught up with that first. And that's why I put forward a plan to do that. Affordable housing, though, is important, and it's important for our business community in particular. What we hear is the real one we're behind in this part of the county is lack of diverse housing stock. So I have been working with developers to bring forward several projects, a low-income apartment building that was built by Stone Springs Boulevard. We have 2 more coming in at Avonlea. We have more that we're talking to Toll Brothers about behind the Home Depot. There's several projects that are underway in housing, and it's important that those continue to move forward.
So real quickly, thanks. Gonna call a quick follow-up to this one, because this is the affordable housing, workforce housing, attainable housing, multiple names, multiple dimensions. It's been a problem in the county for over 20 years. The county has utterly failed in addressing this issue because it continues to get worse, doesn't get better. The ADU program isn't doing it. Our zoning isn't doing it. So what are we going to do different? That's the question. What are we going to do different? So you each get 2-3 sentences to opine.
Well, Mayor, I agree with some of what you said, except it's not just the county, it's the region. That's one of the reasons why people have moved to Loudoun. Affordability, because other parts were less affordable. But we just dedicated a portion of our tax revenue towards affordable housing about a year and a half ago at this point. And when I asked questions, which I got some pushback on even asking the questions during the last budget season, it turns out we haven't actually. So the first thing we have to do is improve our process, staff up on planning and zoning and building and development, and actually be able to push forward applications, because we now have a pipeline of folks who want to build this type of housing, and the county itself is not moving fast enough to actually move on those.
So I think we've all identified this. So my recommendations here will be, the thing is, land in our county is so very expensive because of data centers, right? They've pushed the pricing beyond people's ability to purchase. So it's hard for us to get affordable housing because land is not affordable, right? Solutions are starting with smaller starter homes for people. So even starter homes for people who are just starting out will help. Idea should be to get those people who are on wait-listed programs, to get them into the housing sooner rather than later, getting the funding for these programs faster, getting the system faster, making sure the completion of the projects happen in timely manner, and end goal is to get more homes done and get more people in those homes. That's what the solution is.
Thank you both.
So this is a cult debate. And you get out of here without a question on towns. So, incorporated towns of Virginia run many of their own affairs, including zoning law. At the same time, town residents are also county residents and pay the same county taxes as everyone else. Has the county done an adequate job town residents for the services equitable to those received by non-town residents. As a supervisor of a district with no towns, but having responsibility as well for the county as a whole, how would you ensure equitable services to town residents, and how would you convince the full board as well?
One of us, where we are. I think it was me. I think it was you. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Okay. So we've had some challenging discussions with our towns, and it's absolutely true. Town residents are county residents. At the same time, we have a lot of other communities that feel in this part of the county not received as much attention as they wish from the Board of Supervisors as well. So as the Dulles District Supervisor, it's obviously been my priority to represent them. We have tried to provide adequate facilities for our residents, but quite frankly, we've had some difficulty doing that, particularly in the Percival area, which is incredibly important, sort of strategically located to be able to locate a Western Loudoun Recreation Center, which I've supported, to be able to locate several other facilities. But unfortunately, the town of Percival really has not been a great partner with the county on those things, and that's been pretty well documented over and over by both of your newspapers. My attitude is, I'm all for providing equitable opportunities for residents. Western Loudoun residents deserve that as well. There are certain things that it's just difficult to recreate in that type of environment. But in our capital program, we have tried to work with our towns. We here, and we fund the ones that we can, particularly on some infrastructure. We've supported several town applications. Very memorably, when Hillsborough wanted to improve their entire kind of Main Street corridor, the whole town showed up at MBTA with the county's support to help improve that project. So I don't think it's fair to say that they're supportive of those residents, but there are sometimes challenges because you have some different folks who have their own authority in those places, which you all know very well.
So I'm not on the board yet, but I hear that there is an issue there. I think communication is the way to solve things. Communication, open communication, having your door open is a policy that I believe in. I think communication can solve a lot of problems, no matter which aspect or phase or space in life you are at. So I think having good, healthy communication is good. I like the East meets West program that you had hosted in Middleburg. I think that was a really good opportunity for a lot of people to come together, listen to the concerns. I think having programs like that, a meeting regularly, maybe scheduling a meeting once a month between towns and the businesses, I think that's a good way to solve problems. And I think since towns paid tax double in terms of their own tax and the county tax, they definitely need to be taken care of. And the 7 towns are our jewels, and we definitely should do whatever we can to solve problems for them. So that's my answer.
Alrighty. Moving on to traffic. For years, the Route 50 corridor in the Dulles District has been a traffic nightmare for the Dulles District and Loudoun commuters and residents. What are your plans to finally fix this critical road juncture, and how specifically is Fairfax County on board to support your proposal where Loudoun and Fairfax connect? You have 90 seconds.
So yes, 50 is a major artery in our district, and honestly, when we bought our home here, where we live now, we bought it with the vision that we was straight shot up for us into Fairfax, and we were much closer. But all the development and all the housing that came through in the past few years has just made transit and traffic really challenging on 50. So it needs to be taken care of, and that is one of the reasons why I'm actually running for office, because I've sat in that horrible traffic times, and that's quality of life issue for all of us here, because that's the time people are spending on roads that should be given back to them so we can make their life better. There is a proposal in the comp plan that has been there for a long time to have grade separated interchanges that should go on to there for a long time. I'm not sure why this has not been executed yet. It's time to take action. We don't want to waste another 12 years going into this without getting action taken and taking care of the situation. So 50 needs to be fixed, and it needs to be fixed now. So we need solutions for that, and we need to make
So when I took office, 50 was only 4 lanes and 606 was 2 lanes. So we've made tremendous progress there. If folks go back and think about what that was like, we built Tall Cedars Parkway between South Riding and Stone Ridge. It wasn't connected. That gets cars off of Route 50. Number of things, and we're doing a number of things along Braddock Road. But going forward, I've taken that plan to go to grade separated interchanges and moved it forward at Loudoun County Parkway and Route 50. At this moment, VDOT is doing an interchange access report, which is a 3-year process. Just the study cost, but a 3-year process to decide whether they will allow Loudoun County to upgrade that intersection into an interchange. I had a big community input meeting about what that should look like. I've also advanced a very specific proposal, which is going to be challenging, but we've been working on very closely with the Airports Authority to connect Tall Cedars Parkway on Route 28, essentially going up and over on MWA property using their right-of-way. And I've used my relationships to be able to advance that and get that in the region's federal funding plan.
Okay, now we're going to talk about Route 15. The board previously committed to a nearly $500 million project to widen Route 15 north of Leesburg, citing safety. Yet according to VDOT, it is not in the top 20 of Loudoun roads in terms of safety problems. Should the county move forward with this project, and why? Or should the next board reverse its decision, and why?
We should move forward with the project unless our friends in Maryland will wise up and allow us to build a bridge at any point across Route 28 or other parts of that corridor. Unfortunately, that seems less and less likely as the years go by. We are having trouble even operating White's Ferry, which hasn't been running for several years. So I do support the Route 15 project, but we have to do it in chunks. And that amount is really the total project. That is not going to be something that's achievable, and you can better believe that as the Dulles supervisor, I'm fighting for funding to go into Route 50 and some of the other projects that we've talked about. But nevertheless, we are moving forward on some key parts of it. And we've talked about it since I've been on the Board of Supervisors. There's been debates and debates and debates, and at some point we needed to make a decision because it was about safety. It's also important to talk about of this, which is all the folks coming from Maryland into Loudoun County to work. We've become an employment center. And so I actually initiated last year a study looking at bus service going actually to the west out the 7 corridor and north up the 15 corridor to try to capture some of those folks. Is that even at the county government building alone, we have enough employees taking Route 15 every day that we could fill a bus, and that would take cars off the road. So we have to look at all of these types of solutions. I'm a big advocate for transit, obviously. That's one component. So I wouldn't reverse the decision, but we have to be smart about how we execute it.
So Route 15 is again another challenge because we want to keep Western Loudoun as protected as we possibly can. With that being said, I think what we can do is whatever project has been now approved is fine, but as we move to the next phases of Route 15's improvement, community input is going to be extremely important in that case. When we give voice to our community, the community who lives there they are the stakeholders. They know what they want and how their life is going to get better. If we just take more input from them, I think that'll make easier on the board because we can listen to the community better instead of making sure that we are not taking actions and decisions that are not conducive to the community that it belongs to.
Infill developments. So the board made zoning decisions 2 and 3 decades ago that assumed market demand for non-residential development like shopping centers and big office parks would be throughout eastern Loudoun. Much of that demand has not panned out, and the board has recently considered several applications to rezone land either to data centers or more dense housing developments. Many of these applications have centered on infill projects of less than 20 acres. How would you approach these applications as they come forward?
So any part is not yet data center land needs to be protected We need more of flex industrial, especially in this district, very much. And I think we can benefit from that county-wide, because the more commercial spaces that we can have better tax revenue coming in. So yeah, when we infill look applications case by case basis, we should try and see if we can, do something else with it.
So in our part of the county, infill is a lot of what's occurring and a lot of what's coming forward. I think it's important that we try to get it close to what the existing communities are. We have an application right now in Stone Ridge that's a infill development application. I fought to make sure that in the section on Greenstone Drive near the community pool, that it would be single family homes built there, not townhomes, because everything around it's a. And that's something where I think the zoning ordinance is not really taken into consideration on infill policies. But Avonlea is a good example of the type of development that we're moving toward, which is a mixed-use development. It will have a residential component, but it also will have some retail space, some dining space, some of those things that residents really want. Kind of big box shopping center days are pretty much over. There's a lot of vacancies there. And so we have to have those type of residential components in these projects in order to fund the amenities that we actually need. And it's a real challenge for our project developers to really even get financing on those.
Next question is on the topic of taxes. What specific changes, if any, should the next board implement to the county's operating budget and/or property tax rates to relieve the burden on homeowners? Do you have concerns that such a high percentage of our tax revenues are tied to data technology, which could change rapidly?
I do have those concerns. When I was elected in 2012, the tax rate was $1.285. Today it's 87 cents, so we have lowered that rate considerably. In the last few years, it's been more and more difficult to actually lower the bill. We don't control assessments, and they've been going up pretty rapidly in this housing market. At the same time, inflation has occurred, and when inflation occurs, it means labor costs are going up. We have high vacancies throughout the county, including in some of our critical areas like Child Protective Services and the Sheriff's Office and Fire Rescue, and quite frankly, folks. And that means it's not realistic to think that we're going to institute widespread budget cuts and that things are just going to go down. I think residents here are looking for a balance. They're not necessarily looking for the absolute lowest tax rate, which means we're closing our libraries on the weekends and we're not providing the level of service that we should be. But quality out of what we're offering. They want to see good services. They want to see high quality amenities. So looking at the budget, I voted against several items that are in this year's budget. This board in the last 4 years has spent a lot of money. In fact, several years ago, you may remember that on the board voted to actually approve every single position that we had considered because there was a little bit of money left at the tax rate that we were looking at. Well, guess what? That carries over from year to year. So as the former chairman of the board's finance committee, we need to address that. We also need to reduce our dependence on data centers by looking at the personal property tax rate.
So taxes are important, and that's how county functions. I do commit to, making sure that we utilize the lowest possible tax rate while funding our essential county services. To be critical. I do not support the equalized tax rate at all whatsoever, because if we had done that, like our current supervisor has been in office for a long time and he did that for many, many years, we had a consistent deficient numbers to support our public schools with. We have a full-time kindergarten in this county for many years because of that, for the lack of money that was given to the schools. So underfunding schools is not acceptable. Schools are great and they provide a lot of benefits. We need to make sure education is our top priority here. I also if we had also continued on the same path, a deficit of 90 million, and we had to actually compensate for giving LCPS 13 million because of the state deficit that was counted. So there is no way we should be doing that.
The next question is regarding transfer. Should the next board implement a transfer of development rights program wherein data center developers building in Eastern Loudoun may purchase additional by right floor area ratio and or building height by paying landowners in Western Loudoun to give up development rights? Would you support implementing a TDR program as a top priority for the new board?
So I'm all for preservation of Western Loudoun. I truly am. You know, I really believe in environmental benefits, and I have seen firsthand living in this district what happens when you do not have a good vision to execute on, and what kind of havoc it can cause on the community and the quality of life for people who are living here. I certainly do not want to wish that for people in Western Loudoun, but I also want to be, you know, aware of one thing: the TDR program. It's a tool for land preservation, but it also needs a sending and receiving area. So that for that plan to function, we need to identify that space accurately. So where we are pushing that high density development is going to be critical. And if we can solve that problem, I think we can support that program.
Well, first, I just quickly have to start by correcting a few inaccuracies. The reason we didn't have full-day kindergarten was because of the lack of space we had, and that's why I pushed forward all the new schools. Our schools have not been underfunded, and I'm the candidate that's been endorsed by the Loudoun Education Association, our educators. Regarding transfer rights, the reality of that is there has to be a receiving place that gets higher density development, particularly data center development. So I've been a very vocal opponent of that program. One of the fuel tools that we have with data centers is the fact that our clients, typically for what they want to build now, which is bigger hyperscale data centers, they can't do it by right. They used to, and a lot of what was built in Loudoun County has been by right. But going forward, increasingly they're coming in for rezonings. And those rezonings are what enables us to make these projects a lot better, get better setback, architectural commitments, those kind of things, and to negotiate proffers. I was able to get Arcola Boulevard built because of that.
This might be our last question. It's the last one on the sheet. I thought we had some in the bag.
They might have some in mind.
Do you believe it is possible to retain Western Loudoun as a permanent rural area? What policy actions toward this end? Would you commit to preserving the current transit system policy area and the rural policy area boundaries as they are now?
Good question. Western Loudoun is important, not just for the residents that live in Western Loudoun, but for Eastern Loudoun. It's something that attracts everybody to our county. So I do think it's very important. I want to be careful on the last part of your question, because there were a couple of areas in the comp plan that we did adjust because they quite simply weren't put in the right place type and area. And there were some concerns about the precedent that set and so on, but that up because we have schools going in those areas, and it made no sense to keep them in the rural policy area where there could be no water and sewer. And so I don't want to say absolutely no, never, but I will tell you I support Route 15 as a dividing line between more dense development and what we have in Western Loudoun County today. And I do think a piece of that, I think conservation easements are an important part of that. I'm following the debate on prime ag soils. It's a very heated debate, as all of you know. I honestly can't tell you exactly where I'm coming down on that yet, because I'm listening to both sides of the issue, and the board hasn't been presented that issue yet. But it's an issue where both same goal, which is how do we preserve the most amount of land. I think conservation easements have been very successful in the county. We have something like 20,000 acres now that are in conservation easement, and that's a good program for us because it allows the homeowner to actually have not have to pay taxes. And we found over growth in economic development in Western Loudoun through our breweries and wineries that have actually enabled folks to stay on those properties and not develop them.
So all of Western Loudoun, the prime egg soil and the agriculture, the tourism, the wine, is important, and we should do whatever we can to preserve Western Loudoun, as I've said in the past, and I'll just say that again. But yeah, there is, if you have a good vision and you know where you want to go with it, it's absolutely possible to execute on it. If we are clear that, okay, this is what we want to keep it that way. They say where there's a will, there's a way. So yeah, rural policy area should be preserved in Western Loudoun, and that's what my stand is.
Okay, so I'm going to call an audible on this one, uniquely for each of you. So, Mr. You said in your answer that Route 15 should be the dividing line between dense and rural. However, the rural policy area border is Evergreen Mill. Mm-hmm. So you support pushing more density towards Route 15?
No, I was talking about not the zoning, but the way of living, really. The transition policy area obviously exists, and it's east of Route 15. And so I do support...
Well, it's actually east of Evergreen Mill is where the border is.
But which is also east of Route 15. So I'm saying in between the suburban and the rural policy area is the area. And the transition policy area really hasn't worked particularly well until, I think, the comprehensive plan, where we've tried to find ways to actually make it work. We've seen an awful lot of sprawl. If you look at some of the major development that's occurred in this part, in the Braddock Road corridor, they're by right communities that are pushing further, putting a lot of strain on our infrastructure. So what we tried to do in the comprehensive plan...
Let me just hold you there.
Yeah.
So, Ms. Khanna, question for you. Along the same lines.
Yes.
You spoke about preserving the rural policy area, the transition policy area. However, you also spoke of Dulles Cloud South, which would push into the transition policy area. So are you for preserving the TPA or allowing data centers to go in there where they can't currently go?
So I'm absolutely in support of preserving TPA. What I said in support of Dulles Cloud was only if we could do a small carve out over there, we could make a little adjustment, because we already have, so that TPA area has already been constructed, or it's already been worked into, because we already have two substations there, and we also have overhead power lines. That's a necessity to, be. So only because of that is what my recommendation or my thought is over there. But we can have more conversations, and we can figure out what we want to do in the future.
Thank you. Next question we had for you guys. Given the nature of our national politics,
yeah,
and the divisive nature of what we see going on today, and as you guys are running as party-backed candidates, how will you ensure, both for yourself and your party compatriots, that does not make its way into Loudoun County?
Well, people are people. Party lines are okay, and we all echo the sentiments and values of the parties that we come from. But when we are making decisions for the community that we represent, we are not looking at people as, or are they Republicans or are they independents. When somebody comes to me, I work a lot in the community. I sit on different boards. I've had many years of working across the aisle. When I work with people, I don't ask them who they are. So I think that's our stand. You just get the work done, and to the best of the ability. Done.
So it really takes discipline and commitment to remembering why we're on the Board of Supervisors. We're here to deal with county issues. We're here to deal with quality of life issues, the things that affect us every day. Quite frankly, a lot of what happens, they're going to argue, they're going to, unfortunately, it looks like, shut the government down. We can't have that level of dysfunction here. The best way that I can demonstrate my commitment to that is just by sharing a little bit about the leadership positions I've had in the region. As I said, I'm one of Metro's 2 Virginia board members. I was chairman of the Metropolitan Washington Council. There are virtually no Republicans that sit on that board, and yet they elected me to be chairman. I represent the Northern Virginia jurisdictions at Metro, and I was chairman of the MVTC board, Arlington, Alexandria, Fairfax County, City of Fairfax, Falls Church. Those are not Republican bastions, and yet they asked me to be their representative. Why is that? Because they know I know how to work with people. I was actually chairman of the finance committee for 2 years in this board's term, even though my party is not in the majority. So I think that demonstrates how I approach the job and my commitment to community.
Thank you. Now we will move on to your all's closing statements. I've already forgotten who went first. Right. So it would be Mr. Letourneau, you go first.
I think it's the other way around.
Did you go first? Oh, God. Yep, I apologize. It's only Wednesday.
It's all right. I'm going to read my statement because there's a lot of words in there, and I want to be conscientious of our time that we're spending here. So tonight, the choice is clear. The contrast is clear. District needs new leadership. It needs new vision. It needs new care. In terms of safety, I will make road safety, pedestrian safety, and traffic safety a top priority. Fix 50 in my first term, because my opponent, our current supervisor, ran on fixing as well. It's still not done. So we need to make that happen now. We want to make sure that the S-curve issue is taken care of. It's a very long pending issue in our district. It's not a new issue. I highlighted that issue in my campaign, and again, our current supervisor has tried to take some action on it. There are issues that should have been taken care of because quality of life is important for all of us. This is why we get on the board to serve, to represent our community. I want to make sure that our community gets a voice at the table. We are heard loud and clear is what my message in the community is. This is why I want to serve, because there is no other way. Things happen that work out for the best interests for all of us. Every stakeholder should be given a chance, an opportunity to give their input, because that's how we make better plans. In terms of sustainability, I want to work to implement policies and initiatives that promote renewable energy. I want to reduce the carbon county. In terms of availability, livability, I want to make sure that our communities is always taken into account and action. I will be a careful steward of taxpayer dollars, treating that budget as my own, like I do for my own family, is how I will treat our, because taxes are a huge responsibility. I'm also committed to transparent, open communication, making sure that we are respectful for everybody who lives here in the county. I am a first-generation immigrant. I moved to United States when I was 23. I'm born in. Never in my life had I thought that I would be running for office. I'm running for office exactly for the same reasons as some of the other people have. When they see things that are not being done right, when they see the vision that's the county or the district that you live in is not headed in the right space, you want to bring that meaningful change. That's what pushed me to run. That's what I'm going to do when I get elected. Listen to all of you and make change happen. Wish me well. Follow me at pujafordullas.com. And November 7th is our election day. Counting on your support. Thanks.
Thank you. So it's very easy to sit on and criticize the pace that some things have happened in this district. And certainly it has taken a while to get some of our projects done. But that's because we have a budget and we have a fiscal constraint. And as I said, I've been able to achieve $1.5 billion of infrastructure directly serving this district in my 12 years in office. And it's not as if we're stopping. As we speak, there are crews that are finalizing North Star Boulevard so that we can have it open next month. There are crews working on Arcola Boulevard right now that is going to connect up to Loudoun County Parkway. And there are crews working VDOT's working on the analysis on 50 interchange. We have the collector road. We have all these projects that are underway because I started them. I'm sorry we couldn't finish all of them in one term, but that's not the way this works. We have a 6-year capital budget. And so that's just the reality. But when we look back at the last 4 years, there's no debate that it's been difficult. It's been difficult for all of us. It's been difficult for our country. One topic that hasn't even come up today is COVID-19. If you think about where we were 2.5 years ago, it's all we were thinking about. And as Finance Committee Chairman at that time, I'm pretty proud of the way that the county responded to that and the vaccination clinic Dulles Town Center, in which thousands of our residents were able to get what they needed to make it through that pandemic safely. And unfortunately, not all of them did, which I think it's important that we remember. That's all we were talking about. Now we've kind of moved on, and the world has moved on, and the work has moved on. For me personally, I had a pretty significant injury exactly almost 3 years ago. It put me in a vulnerable position for the first time. I wasn't able to do things for myself. I needed my family to help me. And I was able to get through that. And it actually gave me a real passion to continue this work, to continue serving the community, to continue to advance what we've talked about tonight, the projects that I know make a quality of life difference. When I see kids walking into the Dulles South Recreation and Community Center, I know no matter what happens with this election, I have a legacy here, and that means a lot to me. It really does. I have my own family that lives here. I'm as motivated as everybody else these problems, and I'm motivated to keep us focused on being a board of supervisors that really is about serving the community. Not politics, not partisan interests, not resolutions that divide us here and there, but focused on the job at hand, because there's still plenty of work in our great county. And I really would love the opportunity to keep doing it for the residents of the Dulles District for the next 4 years.
Thank you. That was amazing. You both went over 2 minutes and 30 seconds for your closing statement, but within 2 seconds of one another. Okay. So I'm glad.
And you were so kind that you didn't interrupt either of us. So thank you.
Yes, no, this was the last chance. So that concludes the debate series for Dulles. I want to thank both candidates. I said this at the Little River debate between Ram and Laura, and I want to say I wholeheartedly really appreciate the fact that you both kept this about issues, facts, details, ideas, vision, accomplishments. It was not personal. It was not attacking each other. It was not about party. It was about Loudoun County. So be very proud of that and how you represented yourselves and the county as a whole tonight. And I think we all thank you for that. The next debate is tomorrow night. It is for the Algonquian District. It is at River Bend Middle School, Sterling. Same exact time, 7 p.m. to 8:30. Colt will be live streaming it as well on our Facebook page. So go live, watch it online. I want to thank Norm, Karen, and Chris, and especially our AV expert, Jeff, in bringing everything together tonight. I want to thank the Mercer Middle School for making the building available. And last and certainly most importantly, thank you to all of you for coming and participating. Democracy works best when we're all engaged, and you just being here is a shining example of that. So don't forget to vote either early or on November 7th. Thank you very much, and have a great evening.